slide. I work for UC Davis at the School of Education. This is our moderately recent new Drupal website. I build Drupal stuff for them and any other sort of techie things that they tend to need. I also kind of moonlight small local Drupal sites on the side under the name Up and Running, but it's not a full-time job, but sometimes it pays for my computer addiction. All right. Let's talk a little bit about kind of where we came from here and where we're going. A brief history. I'm going to start here at 4.7 because that's kind of when I showed up on the scene. Can you guys see that? Jeez. Yeah? Okay. All right. So in kind of 4.7 and earlier, and there's wide overlaps here, as you'll see. What we really had were these kind of full-featured modules. We had modules like image or event, where the image module, it created a node type called image, and you could put one image into that node, and that was pretty much all it was. Event was, it was kind of a calendar type event system. It created a node type called event, and you could put in a start date and an end date, and it has a nice looking calendar, but that's pretty much all it was. You couldn't, there wasn't a lot of customization going on that. So we're going to go for some analogies here and see if we can grok this a little better. This is kind of like going to this toy store and buying a nice toy of the Millennium Falcon. It is the Millennium Falcon. It looks really nice, but the Millennium Falcon is really all it will ever be. You can't turn it into a Star Destroyer or Serenity or any other thing that you want to turn it into. You couldn't even, it would be difficult anyway to add more parts to it. So you kind of, this is what you get. Okay, next. Around Drupal 5, I think some of this actually did come up a little earlier, but think of it like a big normal curve. In 5, really, though, it was all about these building blocks. We had CCK and views, we had image field, image cache, date and calendar modules, and these were the building blocks that really helped you build anything you want. They were very, very customizable. You could do really anything you wanted, extremely powerful. And this was widely considered an improvement. So back to our analogy, this is like going and getting a big bucket of Legos. This gives you the freedom to do anything you want, but it takes a little while to kind of put it together. And you got to find the right pieces, and it can be confusing if you're a beginner. You don't really know kind of what the best pieces to use, and it does take a whole long time to do it. So that's kind of where we were right before features. So, there we go. So next, in Drupal 6 and continuing on to Drupal 7, what we're getting here is these pre-built block sets. So we're still using these blocks, CCK, views. CCK is in core now for 7. Image field and image cache are in core as well, date and calendars, but this is, you still uses these building blocks. And with features, ctools, strong arm as well, and then other ones, this gives you this idea of exportables, where you have your configuration that you spent all this time putting together, but it lets you actually kind of save that as a saved set of all your cool stuff that you put together. And this is like buying the Lego version of the Millennium Falcon. It still looks like the Millennium Falcon. It's pretty cool, but it's still Legos, which means you can do anything you want with it, right? So once you have this feature, you still have CCK and views and all these other modules at your disposal. And if you need to customize it further, you're totally free to do that after you've installed that feature. So it's not even like going and buying the Millennium Falcon box. It's more like buying it on eBay from some kid that's already put it together and he ships it to you, right? You're getting this just delivered in your lap of this feature that is fully, we'll cover terminology, fully featured. We'll cover terminology later, but it's really everything you need for this, and this is just one person's idea of how it should be, and you're free to continue on after this and put on a second cockpit or something, or whatever you want to do to it. All right, so as you saw, Drupal has some of these problems that was associated with those building blocks, and features can help solve this. So one of the problems that we had is we had a whole bunch of sites, and you wanted to do pretty much the same thing on all those different sites. So let's pretend you're a Drupal developer, or you build websites, and some client comes to you and say, okay, I want to build a TV review site. And you say, all right, I can do that in CCK and Views. And you put it all together. It takes you a whole bunch of hours and a lot of clicking. And then you launch it, to wide praise. And some other client comes to you and says, that's really cool. I want something just like that. But I want camera reviews. And you're like, oh, okay, well, that's similar. I've done that before now, so at least I can do it again. So you get back in there and do all the clicking. You set up your CCK and Views, and you put it all back together again, and now you have your camera review site. And then someone says, I want beer reviews. And then someone says, I want movie reviews. And by this time, you're really tired of making reviews websites, and it's a lot of time to put all of these together, even though you kind of know what you're already doing. So you'll see features can help this. All right, here's another problem we have. So we have dev, so that's your development, you have staging, and deployment. So let's pretend, you don't even have to pretend, you're a Drupal developer, and you're sitting on your development site, and you're doing lots of clicking to configure it exactly the way that you want. And you're very wise because you're doing it on your development site, not on a live site. And you do all your clicking, you get it all set up exactly the way you want. Okay, now what? Well, now you want to put it onto your staging site. So you go to your staging site at Web Enabled, and you do lots of clicking again. And you were very careful to write down every single click that you did, right? Because you need to do that exactly in the same order, and you need to do it in the same place, right? And okay, did I forget anything? I don't think so. It looks like it's doing just about the same thing. And it takes a lot of time, too. And next, here you go to your deployment site, and once again, we have lots of clicking on a live site. And again, did I forget anything? So you might actually be clicking around on stuff and enable a new content type that you don't want your clients to be able to see. Okay, well then maybe you could put your site into maintenance mode or something. It's all very messy. It's all very messy. And Features helps to solve this problem as well. All right. Another problem we have is, what did I just do, right? I just enabled something, I just clicked, I created this content type, and now it's not doing what it was doing before, but what was it that I actually did? And I screwed something up, like I need to go back. Well, if you're just sitting there clicking, there's like the backup and migrate module and stuff like that might help you, but again, that's the whole database, right? It's not just, you can't pick and pull these. So when we're talking about this, we're talking about version control, right? And when we talk about version control from now and in the future, we're going to talk about Git. So this will allow you, when it exports all this stuff, it exports it as code. And it's exported as files that you can then put into a version control system, run diffs, run branches. Anything you want to do with your version control, you can do with a module like this, be able to figure out what you've done, roll it back to an earlier version. This just makes a huge difference when you're trying to develop a site. All right. So and this is an SQL dump, right? So you could like dump the whole database, but you don't want to do that. That has way too much stuff in it, and if you're trying to move to a production site, you're going to have content as well, and you can't really just replace a whole database. It just gets really messy. So what you do with Features is and this is actually Views here, but Features exports this. This is the code for just this one view, all right? Product review teasers, right? So this is just one view, and it exports this code for you. And so if you want to figure out, you probably can't read this much, but what did I do? Oh, I made the here we go. These are the sorts, right? Oh, I added a new sort, and you can see that show up actually right in the middle of the code if you have a version control system. So let's show it off. Any questions? Okay, let's go do some questions before that. Do we get this? Does this make sense? Anybody want to ask any questions about how Features is doing this before I actually get into the live demo here? It's kind of important to note when we create these features that it doesn't it uses CCK and Views. It doesn't actually like pull the actual CCK and Views code out of that. You still need all those modules, as you'll see. There's going to be lots and lots of dependencies on these features that you create. Yeah.
This is pretty naive, but does it pull the configuration you clicked to create in the database into code?
That
and
is.
then when you load the system again, it loads it back into the database?
That's exactly what it does.
Okay.
You'll do all your clicking in CCK and views just like you normally do, but you only have to do it once. As I'll demonstrate them. You only have to do it once. You decide what the pieces are that you want, a whole big old long list of checkboxes. And then you say export, and it pumps out a file. And it's a gzip file, and it's a module. I mean, in every sense of the word, what you just created without even knowing a line of code is a Drupal module. It's a kind of a special kind of module because it does require features and all this extra stuff. But it is actually a module. And I'll show you what some of the insides of that is.
It doesn't sound like you can do it the reverse way, where you could actually configure everything in code.
You can, it's just, that's a lot of typing, and sometimes it's easier just to click some buttons. You certainly can if you know the code well enough, but that's, normally you just get started with going into features and configuring everything the way you normally
So is
want
this
to
really
do.
just tracking clicking?
No,
Okay.
it actually exports PHP, raw PHP that you'll see.
Right.
And not every module supports features. There's features when it came out by the good folks at Development Seed. They made sure that it had support for a couple key modules, like CCK and views, right? So not every module supports it, and as you'll see, there'll be some things you'll come across and say, oh, well, where's that thing that I want to export that nice module that I just configured? Well, that module never built in features support. And so you're back to square one for that piece of it, but you can still do a substantial amount.
So if you write a custom module, can you build out the features to them?
Yeah, in fact, that's very common. A lot of big sites that you'll see, or even small sites, even before features, they'll sometimes have like a little helper module that the developers will build just for that site, and it just employs maybe a couple form alters or hook form alters or something like that,
Yeah.
right? So what you'll do with this is what you'll do is start with features, export the stuff that you want, but because it's a module, as you'll see, you have a .module file, and so just start putting some hooks in there, and when you export it again, features will recognize, oh, this stuff here, I don't care about this stuff, I'm going to leave this here when I export it again. So it's smart enough to know that you put some extra stuff into the .module file. And you'll be able to actually use that as kind of your helper module. And you'll see a lot of features that, say, Development Seed or other people have put together, often have some extra code in there for just to help some extra stuff that you want to configure for part of that. So it's more than just the configuration, it's a whole module, and you can do anything that you can do with a module you can put in there. Yeah.
So to follow up on that question, is it really round trip? You do configuration